Okay, in this video I'm going to go over royalty uploads or imports. It allows you to get a royalty statement from a society or sub-publisher like BMG, BMI, SOCAN, ASCAP, HFA, and we've got like 40 or so more other ones. We also have the ability to create your own, which I'll go over later in another video. But in this case, we're going to be using BMG as our example, but in the documentation for royalty moduling or simply royalties publishing royalties modules, you can find the step-by-step how to do it under royalty uploads. So if you click on that and we jump down, and you can see that we're going to basically go through these exact steps. Yep, so we're going to go jump into it here, but under the publishing menu, royalties uploads, and then new royalty uploads. We have this other upload engine, which is the old one, and there's still some uploads that are underneath the old one until we get them all converted to the new way. So if you don't find your upload here, then look for it in the old version, and if it's not there, then contact support and we'll just need to add it. This is the spot where you can create your generic upload as well by creating those, and I'll do another video for that. But it allows you to, somebody sends you an Excel file, you'll be able to create your own upload off of that. So let's click on royalty uploads. I only have a few in here. We're going to do the BMG. So this is you're just going to double click on BMG. And what this prompt is asking you is if prior to this I had already imported a file, and it's asking me if I want to re-import it. Even though this is the file we're still going to process today in this video, I'm going to say no, so you can see the ability how to import the file from scratch. So we're going to say no. The reason for this is if you got interrupted for some reason and you getting back to it later, you don't have to re-import the file, especially if it's a very large one, 300,000 or 400,000 lines. This saves you some time, so you can just say yes, and it uses the data that's already in the system. If for whatever reason when you did process the file last time or try to import it, there was some errors or an issue with it, you're going to want to re-import the file to override the existing data to make sure whatever fixes or corrections were made get pulled in as well. So we're going to say no here, and then the statement period comes up. If we jump into the documentation really quick, you can see that this is just a period for the beginning and ending of the counting period covered by the income statement. So you can there's two different ways people do it. They either enter in their actually royalty period they're processing, or they'll enter the period in for the file they're actually importing. So whatever period the file came from, say like we're currently doing BMG, if it was a previous quarter, you might want to put that information in there. This doesn't change payouts or anything like that. It's more of a documentation and report information for later. So we're continue on from there. So we're just going to leave the dates in, and whatever you entered last in also will default the next time. So these are the dates that I've been working with. So we're going to hit save. So now it's prompting me for my file. I'm going to grab this file right here. So you have to go and find your file, so you can see that I'm storing my files in a certain location. So wherever your file is, it's a standard Windows Explorer. So you find your file, click on it, and then just open it. So now it's reminding me that this file I was processing it last time. Do I still want to re-import it? And so we're going to say yes. So you can see here it's at 6,000 and 117 lines. So we're importing 6,000 lines of data, which can be relatively small based on other files that you may process when they're 300,000 or 400,000 lines. But it'll just take a minute. So now here it's asking us if we want to import another file. So you have the option to import more than one at a time. So if you want to, if you had say 5 BMG files and you wanted to create only one income statement using all 5 of those files, you can do that. Typically people will do one file at a time because you get a certain amount or a check amount that matches that, and you want to make sure that that matches up. But however you do business, you can however you want to do it, then you can do it. So this just allows you to import those multiple files, but we're going to say no here. And this prompt here is asking us for a date received, and then the batch number. The batch number is the same batch number that's going to be used when it generates the income statement at the end of this process. So we're just going to save, because this is the same, and it remembers the last one you typed in. So it's the last time we typed it in, it was demo. So we're going to hit save. So here, this is sort of important. Here is check amount and gross amount. So these amounts need to be what you expect them to be. So if you've gotten a check for $5,000 and it says $4,056, something went wrong with the upload. So there's a couple things that could happen. One, that SR, Simply Royalties, malfunctions in some sort of way, and then you need to contact support and let us know. Or there's something wrong with a file which you may or may not be able to fix yourself. So again, contact support. Or the file is just incorrect. But anyway, in any case, if this amount doesn't match your file, just connect or contact us, and we'll help you figure out what went wrong. So at this point, we're connecting the data that's in the BMG file or any file that you're importing to the data that's inside Simply Royalties. So we need to connect all the song information to the song information, Simply Royalties. If territories were imported, income types, the different income types, because you just got to connect that data to Simply Royalties. But it's a one and done connection. So once you map a song to the song in Simply Royalties, the next time you import a BMG file for the exact same song, the work is already done. Eventually you should have all your information from that particular society mapped to whatever's in Simply Royalties, and it's just more of a check, and then a validation check for you to make sure everything is mapped, and then you just create an income statement. So the first few that you do probably take a little bit more time than normal, and then after a while it'll be really quick, and now you're importing 300,000 line income statements in minutes rather than hours. So we're going to start with song because it's the biggest amount of information as far as connecting. So double click on map songs and you get this screen here, and this screen here is our mapping screen. So we're going to connect the information from the song information from the BMG file to the song information that's in Simply Royalties. So there's a lot going on this screen here. So if you go into the documentation again, you can scroll down and you get to this screen eventually. So this is the screen here, and it explains all the different fields, and we'll go over them briefly, but just so you know that they're here as well. So anything that's red means it hasn't been connected, and then all the way to the left here we have the verified field. If it's unchecked, it's also not been connected or mapped. The term I'll probably use most often is mapped. So if you check the box and you move it over, it turns it green there, so you know it's been mapped. So the first song number and the song title are the actual information that came from the file you just imported. This SR title is the actual title that it tried to at least connect to in Simply Royalties. I'll explain that a little bit more later. The writer 1 is the actual writer information that was pulled in from the file you just imported as well. If there's more than one writer field, it'll show up here. These amounts are the total amounts for that given song that just got imported, so you can just see the amounts, or if you're trying to match something or up, whatever, it's just more information there. This status is the status of how it's trying to help you map it, and I'll explain that in a minute. And everything over here, the rest of it to the right, is the song ID, writer, and publisher information is all from Simply Royalties, and it's just there to help you try to map that information to the other information. So what the screen is it tries to do the best it can to help speed up the process to mapping the songs. So there's the status is the key for this. It tells you how it tried to, or if it has been mapped or not mapped. So again, anything red is not mapped. But if we look at title equal here, and then we have a different one, title best, and there's several other ones. So if we go back to the documentation, these are all the statuses. So if the line is green and it's been mapped, it'll say mapped, and that means that the song from the import file has been linked or mapped to the song in Simply Royalties. Not mapped is pretty obvious. But it goes through all these different phases of trying to connect your song to the song in Simply Royalties. if you've registered the song and if you've entered that registration song into Simply Royalties, it will use the actual song ID or registration ID that came from the file and connect it to Simply Royalties. If there's an ISRC or an ISWC in the file or the BMG file we're working with, which is not, but some other societies actually send that information, it'll connect the song or try to help you link the song in that way. If all of this fails, then it tries to do a title match, and a title match is just an exact title match. So letter for letter, space for space, character for character, it finds an exact match, but it only found one song. So in the case of, say, like Amazing Grace, you've got it in there 3 times, but it finds an exact title match, but because there's 3, it's not an exact match because you still have a decision to make between which one it is. When that happens, you'll fall down to title best. So it does the best it can to match the song. So if it doesn't find an exact match or even multiple exact matches, it'll try to still find something that closely resembles the title that got pulled in. So that's how it tries to help you find it, but it doesn't actually do the mapping or connection automatically for you. It still wants you to confirm that is correct. So there's a couple of ways to verify or map a song. So in this case, if we start from the top here, we have Once More with a Feeling that came in with this song ID, and based on the status over here, we know it found the exact title match in the system with Once More Than a Feeling, and then you can confirm that the writer was Nelson, and then it's Shirley Nelson over here. So it's a pretty strong possibility that that's the actual title. So you can just hit Verified, select there, and then if you click down, you can see it's green. You can also double click on the line and go into it, where you can actually see a little bit more, but up here, this information is the title, the song ID, and the writer that came from the file we imported. Down here is the list of songs that Simply Royalties has, and so you can see Once More Than a Feeling, that matches, Shirley and all that matches. So you can either double click at this point or hit select. So if we do the same thing, if we just go like to Heartache and do the same thing, we go, yep, that's right, we can hit select, and then we arrow down and you see it's green. So one of the things this tries to help speed things up, if you're confident with all the title equals, you can actually sort by the status, and then you can see that now it groups them together. We can click on the first title equal, scroll all the way down to the last one, and if you hold the shift key and click it again, it highlights them all. And then up top here, you can click the Verified Selected, and it'll actually go and do all his checks for you. So again, this is if you're confident with the actual title matches. You can do this manually, you can click them yourself, or you can, as we showed you earlier, click into that and review them. So all the title equals have been mapped, and status has been changed to map, and now they're green, so they're good. But we have all this clutter on the screen, and what helps is to click on this bottom right corner to show only unmapped songs. So we're going to click that, and what that does is it gets rid of all the green and just leaves you with the work that you still have to do. And for us in this case, we just have a bunch of title best, so we're gonna go through them all, and even like in this case, Amazing Grace, it says title best, so it looks like it matches, but it looks like the writer is different than the writer over here. So we're gonna double click into this one and then take a look, and we see that there is 3 Amazing Graces, so we're going to pick the best one that we know for sure is the correct one. So in this case, we have Campbell, and Glenn Campbell is one of the writers here, so we can safely assume that that's probably the correct one. And we're going to hit select, and now it's green, so that one's done. And then we're just going to continue on and do the same thing. We're going to double check to make sure we get the right ones, and so here again we have 2 of the same title. This writer is in this one, so we're going to select that one and then go down this one. So here you can see it did the best it could to find it. So in the file it was I can't even say that, so we're not going to try. But you can see that there's a title in there that's close. It's pretty much the same, it just has some additional lettering in there, and it is from Glenn Campbell. So you should know your catalog well enough to know if that's the correct song or not. So we're going to hit select. And then we're going to go down to the next one. And this one is way off. Audit income unallocated. So we're going to double click into here and then see if we can find something that matches. I just happen to know this catalog a little bit, so we're going to look for it, and then we have this miscellaneous income, which is basically what that's for. So we're going to select it here. And here's Amazing Grace again. So we're going to go into that, and this time we have multiple writers, and it looks like it's going to be this one based on the different writers. They're all matched up here, so we're going to select that one. And there's no... So this one is not quite matched just because there's a space here and there's no space here. So it has to be an exact match. That's why I didn't find it. So we know that the writers are correct as well, but the title, it appears to be exact, but again, in this case, there was a space here. There's not a space here. So we're going to select that one. And then Long Walk Home. The Long Walk Home doesn't appear to be in our system, but sometimes we put them in differently. So if we look for long, there's a Long Walk Home with a comma in the end of it. So just because it doesn't appear to be in there, you just do a little bit of looking and you might find your title. Also, you can use this contain search. So if we had typed in Long Walk and then did search, it would find everything with the words Long Walk in there, and that would be able to find it. And I was going to go through and knock the rest of these out. My song. All right. So this appears to be a song that we don't have, and I mean, I think there's something in there here, but just in case you come across a song, let's say you don't have in your system and it's in this file and you want to continue moving forward without having to not stop processing this upload, you can add songs on the fly here. So if we click add song, it's going to pull in that title from that file. If you're using your own song IDs, you can type them here, but if you leave it blank like always, it creates the ID for you. So you can hit add song, and it's going to create the song, which is some really basic information. You can either create the rest of the information as far as writers and publishers splits and payout information now, or you can wait. So you can just close this and go back to it later. And then we'll just do our last one. And again, it looks like two of them. Looks like the right one. And select. So now we're all done mapping our songs. We can uncheck this box on the bottom right again. It shows them off. We check it just to confirm that they're all blank. So we're done with our songs. So now we got to do the rest of this information. So territories. So there's a couple ways you can do territories. It depends on how specific you want to be. You can actually map South Africa to South Africa if you have it in the system, which of course we don't. You can map, so like in here in this case, we can map Canada to Canada. If you don't want to be that specific, you can just do like a lot of our clients do and map everything. And for time purposes here, I'm going to map everything to foreign. So you just find your foreign here and select. Canada is still, we can leave it Canada because Canada has a parent code of foreign, so it'll be found anyway. And then we still need to do these two here, and we can do the same thing, highlight them both and go make all select same, find foreign, and then select. And then US, you can either map it to US or sometimes people do the domestic thing. So however you want to set it up on your side, is just how much detail or how little detail you want, just like if you're entering it manually into the system. So that's done. And then income types. So we're gonna we need, again, the whole purpose of this is to connect the different data from the file to ours. And so obviously we're not going to have all the same income types as every single society has, so we have to connect them too. So same process. You're just going to double click and then you're going to find it, and it maps it. So in this case, it's not as just like in the territories, it's not as pretty as the song with all the colors. Eventually it will be, but the way you figure out if it hasn't been mapped or not mapped is here. It says not mapped, and once it's mapped, it puts this SR information in here. And it's just like before, you can use the show only unmapped, and it gets rid of all the ones that have been mapped. And you can also do multiples at one time. So we're going to click all the performance ones, or the ones that we know are for sure performance. And then you can go to map all selected with the same income type, and we're going to find performance. And now they're all mapped. And then we're going to clean up the screen so that we can see where we're left off. So then we're going to do all the mechanicals. And we're going to map those to mechanical. And clean our screen up. And then the sync. I'm not sure if that's a sync or not, but we're going to make it a sync. Let's see. Clean that up. Alright, and this is probably mechanical. And this is print. Print or sheet, whatever works in your system. So all those are done. And then we're going to map where it came from. So this goes back, actually the from, we pulled in the from, which is typically like the licensee, but here the from, you can be as detailed as you want, but if you map multiple froms, you're going to get multiple income statements. So if you map Amazon to Amazon, BMI to BMI, and so on and so forth, you're going to get multiple income statements created. So if you just want the one income statement, which typically most of you are going to want to, is that you're going to highlight them all, map, and then we know it's BMG, so we go BMG, and now they're all mapped to BMG. Where the detail can come in is that we're also going to map licensees, so you can, if you wanted to, you could have more detailed information on specifically, it came from BMG, but specifically it came from Amazon. That's going to be under licensees. So under here you could actually go ahead and map them to the specifics if you want to, but if you don't want the detail, which I don't want to make this a real long, too much longer of a demo or a video, so you could go through and highlight or whatever, or you can again you can highlight them all and map them to the same licensee, however it works best for you. So more detail means more work, but more detail means you have more detail later when you're running reports and other information. If you're trying to sell your catalog at some point, you can have more information to give them on specifically where things came. So however you process and however you do business, however it makes sense, so do that. And then the to is important because it has to go specifically who the payouts connect to as well. If you're doing splits, you can split it later as well, but so we're going to connect it to our payor here, Glenn Campbell. And then under OBO, it's just the one. So if you had multiples, this makes more sense, but here you would map it. But also you can map the unmapped OBOs with the same thing you mapped with a 2. If you click that, it just does it for you. It's just it just helps when you have a bunch. It obviously doesn't save a whole lot of time when there's just one. But so now we've mapped all of our information that we need to actually generate an income statement. Right here, which is something you probably would want to do before you map, but you can actually look at the raw data that came in. I'm not sure if that helps you in any sort of way, but If you double click here and you don't want to see all 6,000 lines, you just want to see a couple just to see how the data came in, you just type in the number and then you can actually see specifically the raw data that was pulled in from that file. But once we're all done with that, then you're going to just double click on create income statement. And now it's verifying that you mapped everything, and if it's has, it'll create the income statement. If it has, it won't create the income statement. And we're going to say OK. Now, if we created multiple statements, they will be all listed here. In this case, we've only created the one. Again, the only way it really creates multiple statements is if you map multiple froms or multiple tos in the system. So if you've imported a file that has several different companies that you process for or admin for, you may want to separate income statements. It's really up to you. But if you double click on here, let's create our income statement so that we didn't have to. So you can see the amount is here. You can see all the information it imported. If we go under statement details, you can see the 6,000 lines it's created. And later, you can once we get it done, there'll be a video for processing income from this point, and different tips and tricks and stuff. But that's it. Thanks for listening.